Hello again. This week I've been trying to remember some of the opinions I've held in the past that have changed over time. How can something that was so right back then seem so wrong now? Was I wrong then and right now? Or perhaps right then and wrong now? How would I know? Did right and wrong change, or did I? My name is Ian Currey and this is Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. This week I met someone I haven't seen for a long time, and after a few pleasantries, I quickly remembered how differently we look at some aspects of everyday life. While a remarkable number of key things would unite us, one or two views, especially current political issues, would likely put us at totally different ends of the spectrum. I'm equally sure that both of us would claim to be middle of the road and in no way extreme. We can't both be right, now can we? I've been asked often why I don't talk about politics in these videos. Actually, a number of you have said I should, while others have thanked me for not doing so. Ian, what do you think about the royal family now that you have a king? Or, wow, your country is going through a lot of prime ministers right now. What do you think about all that? Well, in true political style, I suppose I have to answer some of your questions. I mean, I can't just ignore you, now can I? That would be rude. Since I'm British, living in the USA, I can't vote, even if I wanted to, but that doesn't stop me from having an opinion, of course. But since I didn't vote for the leaders whose laws I live under, should I have to abide by those rules? Here in America, one of the things that is very different to England is the Pledge of Allegiance. It seems to pop up in places I don't expect to hear it. It starts by saying, "I pledge allegiance to the flag." And as an outsider, I took interest in this and had a look to see where it came from. And I was rather surprised that it doesn't go back nearly as far as I thought it might. It was modified to include the phrase "under God" relatively recently, but for some that just adds to the intrigue. Surely those who follow God would be pledging allegiance just to God and not to a flag as well. I'm sure there is a logical explanation I'm missing somewhere. The rule of a king and queens is interesting too. These days that is usually more symbolic than anything, but where did that come from? Choosing leaders or rulers is quite important, isn't it? Selecting a ruler or a politician, a representative. Once we choose our favourite politician, we expect them to represent us, don't we? But since we've trusted them, handed over authority if you like, once in their position of power, they can do more or less what they like. What if they decide to go rogue or fail to deliver on the promises they make? What if they turn out to be a person that you really wouldn't trust to look after your cat, let alone the direction of your country? What do you do when it's too late to go back? Politics can be such a dirty game, can't it? One of my favourite stories in the Bible is found in the book of Daniel. There are three men living with long names, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego. And these are the heroes of the story. They decide that they are not going to go along with a new law. And I suppose you could say they took a stand. I think there are other lessons hiding in there too, though. A quick overview of the story shows our heroes in coveted key government positions. A new decree from the king appears, and it's coming straight at them in a way that will likely cause conflict or compromise. Let me show you how it played out. The king at the time was called Nebuchadnezzar. Charles or Harry might well be easier both to spell and pronounce, but nonetheless, that's who was in charge. Our heroes were prominent leaders in a province called Babylon, and that's where the king decided to set up a large statue for everyone to see. Once everyone was there, including our three friends, a herald shouted out, "People of all races and nations and languages, listen to the king's command. When you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and other musical instruments, bow down to the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue." This was a problem to our friends. For whatever reason, they believed that they should only bow to their God and certainly not to a statue. One of them may have said to the other two, "Nope, not doing that." But then the herald goes on. "Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace." Ah, now what? Well, perhaps if we bow a little bit. I mean, if we do that, the benefits of keeping our jobs are huge. We can influence others for good and do things that God has shown us we should be doing. Oh, yes, feeding the poor and making sure those religious freedoms stay on the agenda. It's so important too. Did he mean all those instruments all at once? If we hear a horn, do we suddenly need to bow down? I mean, what if the flute player can be influenced not to play? Then we could say we didn't hear all the instruments the herald mentioned, so didn't bow. If you read on, you'll find out they didn't bow at all, and it looks like they were willing to put their gain positions on the line. Look how it played out, though. Once the music played and the three didn't bow, some informers, political opponents of course, went to the king and said, "Long live the king. You issued a decree requiring all the people to bow down and worship the gold statue when they hear the sounds of the horn, flute," and I can hear the king saying, okay, get on with it. The decree also states that those who refuse to obey must be thrown into a blazing furnace. Yes, I know what we signed. Get to the point. Well, Your Majesty, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who you have put in charge of the province of Babylon, they pay no attention to you, Your Majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue you have set up. Now it looks to me like these slimy advisors were after our heroes' jobs. If they could get the king mad at our friends, maybe the furnace would solve their political issues for them. "Well, King, since your ministers are now solving your palace heating crisis, there appears to be several vacancies. Can we help you with that situation, Your Majesty?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, on the other hand, had indeed taken a stand. But they were not taking a stand by compromising. So often today we hear people say, taking a stand, and what they really mean is they have bowed just a little bit, paid off the flute player, and now claim plausible deniability as they support one scoundrel over another. I've long heard, we're electing a commander-in-chief, not a pastor-in-chief, or other such clever comments. Bowing a little, are we? But the results will be so much better. We can live with a few years of nonsense to achieve this change or that freedom. Sounds an awful lot like compromise to me. I could go on there with the story and show the lovely ending rather than leave it at the three being tossed into the flames. But that really isn't the point of the story. The point was that the three did what was right despite the consequences. The right thing first time, every time. Now, it is true that the right thing would have been a lot easier if the furnace consequence wasn't there, but nonetheless, no bowing took place. I suppose you could sum up this story by saying the end does not justify the means. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't compromise so that their political agenda could be furthered. No, they risked everything for what they knew to be right. There's a famous phrase in the Bible that I've seen printed in a lot of places. The sentence right after this famous saying, though, is often missed. Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Your own wisdom. If we bow a little and vote for this or that person, we'll get this or that, and it's a good thing. Compromising a little. If we support this policy and that candidate, then perhaps good will come. Doing evil that good would come. End justifying the means, perhaps. The famous saying, of course, right before this sentence is, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Using political wisdom to get the job done is a really strange interpretation of the sentence there. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, isn't it? Sometimes I think we're less able to trust God to do things his way than we realize. When you read the end of the Nebuchadnezzar story, it's hard to imagine a better outcome than the one recorded. Can you imagine what the rest of the story would look like if our heroes had decided they were going to take things into their own hands instead of trusting God? Trusting God, you would think, would be easier these days when the fury of a furnace isn't at stake. Doing things the right way, though, somehow still seems harder than it should. Until next time, goodbye.